Hi everyone. On behalf of Design Terminal, let me welcome you back to the second half of today's Future of Agritech session, which was brought to you by X Europe, an EU-funded project of Horizon 2020. And my name is Attila, and I'm going to be the host for the remainder of the session today. We'll continue the stream this afternoon with three exciting topics. The first is going to be about the secrets of how to be successful in the agritech world. And our guests are Boris Förster, partner of Accelerate, and Stuart Oda, who is the CEO of Alaska Life. So let's start with a brief introduction, please. Welcome, guys. Stuart, can you just please share a couple of things about what your team is working on at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So thank you first of all for having me. My name is Stuart Oda, and I'm the founder and CEO of Alaska Life. And Alaska Life is an agricultural technology company, and we build indoor vertical farms and farm management solutions to make food production more localized and data-driven. And our company's really ambitious vision is to democratize access to fresh and nutritious food by democratizing the means and the knowledge of production. And we're currently based in China. We have a team also in Japan, and we recently launched a team in the United Arab Emirates.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Boris, a couple of words about yourself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Boris. I'm an associate partner at a company called Accelerate. So there's mainly three things I do. One being an advisor to global agtech companies building agricultural technology strategies on a global scale and implementing them. We also invest alone and with other investors in promising technology startups in certain areas that I'm sure we're going to talk about today. And the third hat is I'm a co-founder of Food Next, which is a think tank involved in the advancement of the food supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Boris. So, as you said, you invest in startups. So, but my first question is going to go to Stuart. So, Stuart, you have a startup. So, I believe you have an investment and you have some experience with accelerators as well. So, can you just share some of your experience with accelerators or investors, whatever you have experience with?
Yeah, sure. So, we've been supported very generously by accelerators all over the world. We've been a part of the Stanford StartX program last year, and our first accelerator goes back to the Dubai Futures program in 2016. And what we learned is that these accelerator programs are great for several reasons. One is the mentorship that we can get at an early stage, and also the kind of the access we get to new ideas, new tools, new networks. But really, the great thing about these things is the community. It's very, very challenging to have a successful startup in the first place, and to have the support network, both your peers as well as your mentors, kind of in the same location, really helps to give an unfair advantage almost to the startups that are able to participate. And yeah, through these programs, we've met a lot of incredible investors that are very impact focused, which are the ones that have a particular interest in Agritech. And it's always exciting to not only be a part of these programs, but to kind of see the new companies that come through, and to see if you can also kind of give back to that community and help out once you've graduated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Stuart. Boris, can you add anything to that? Your accelerator that you work on that, I guess it can provide a similar kind of support to startups?
Well, actually, Attila, the company is just called Accelerate, but we're not an accelerator. So we're actually a technology strategy consultancy, and we do also invest. But I can only echo what Stuart just said. A working accelerator ecosystem is extremely important. Unfortunately, we're lacking a large accelerator community in Germany. There are a few, which is good, but there could be more, and there could also be more capital deployed through them through easier means.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. The next question is to you as well. So we both know that the EU is planning to drastically reduce or ban the use of certain chemicals. So how do you think this will impact agriculture? And later on, Stuart, just to prepare, so I'm going to ask how the startups that you build can help in this kind of situation. So please, Boris, start first.
Yeah, actually, that is a super interesting topic, and that is also why we've started to deploy capital right now, because now the EU Green Deal is well known. There's been a lot of documents leaked before, but no one really knew what was exactly coming. But actually, I'd like to compare it to the development of renewable energies, which started about 30 years ago. Where 30 years ago, we were working with some investors that are in that space, and they're now investing in Agritech because people told them they were crazy to invest in something like renewable energy 30 years ago, and look where we're now. So the industry has changed completely. So what we're seeing is we're at a similar tipping point in agriculture, and I personally strongly believe that this EU Green Deal, this will not only, that's as a matter of fact, it will not only have an effect on the EU, but anyone who wishes to export to the EU. So it will have huge ripple effects throughout the globe and the flow of food throughout the world. So there's always creates like huge opportunities in markets as they're being disrupted. And we're here not only talking about disruption, but actually the seizure of certain markets, especially when it comes to chemicals and crop protection. Just to give you an example, there are several already banned, like diquat, used for potato desiccation, and there are just no alternatives at the moment that are economically viable. So So what we're looking at is basically companies that are targeting major problems within the supply chain where huge cash flows that exist today are threatened. And I believe that's where the first major impact is going to happen within the supply chain. Because, I mean, from an investor point of view, it makes more sense to invest in these things because that's what we believe is going to get the barrel rolling, and then later on, different technologies will become more interesting. But I mean, with the EU Green Deal, just to give you a figure, we're looking just in the EU. No one knows exactly, but the estimates go from 15 to 25% yield decrease with the current technology we're having today, right? So that's just not working on a long haul, and we need to invest into that area. And given that we are so strict in the EU on genetics, and I personally believe it's because the decision makers in the EU don't really understand and are not very well informed about what gene editing is, because it's not the same as GMO. So we are very limited on that end, but we need to ensure that we don't become let's call it the Museum of Agriculture when it comes to technology, but invest more in alternative weed management, crop protection, and help farmers keep the yields up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Boris. Stuart, anything to add before I jump to the second question?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'll add is that finding alternatives to chemicals, both for fertilizers and pesticides, is something that the agritech industry is already pursuing, and it's very exciting about the innovations that are already coming out in this space. And so, you can imagine a future maybe 2-3 decades from now where a majority of food production is being done using organically produced or biofermented fertilizers as well as organic biofriendly pesticides. And so I think the trajectory is in the right direction. We just need to find better ways to scale and commercialize these technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Stuart. Actually, in the previous to the previous question, Boris has mentioned a very, very important topic, which is around the supply chain. And what do you think the role of indoor farming or the type of, or even vertical farming can be in the agricultural supply chain, Stuart?
Yeah, so indoor farming is great for a couple of reasons. As you'd imagine, because you can control all aspects of the production, it's incredibly efficient. So for example, our farm uses anywhere between 95 to 99% less water, fertilizer, and land compared to conventional farms. We don't use any chemical pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. And our productivity is incredibly high. Our labor efficiency is incredibly high, and our food waste is also very, very low. So minimal food waste and high efficiencies. And what's exciting about indoor farming is not only the fact that you can grow food very close to the point of consumption, so it can really help to create community resilience around access to nutrition. But also what it is able to do is it's able to make the other forms of food production more efficient. So for example, you don't have to grow romaine lettuce in the field anymore because an indoor farm can do it more efficiently and much, much more productively. And so the other forms of food production can specialize in a way that makes the entire food production sector more efficient. And so, not only is indoor farming exciting from the perspective of shortening supply chains and growing food much, much closer to the point of consumption, but also at the same time, it has the opportunity to create this new mode of food production that can really create ripple effects in terms of efficiency across all forms of food production. Mm-hmm. So it's really like if you imagine transportation is very, very efficient because you can do everything from ride a skateboard to ride a rocket to space. And you have everything in between. You have cars, buses, airplanes, and bicycles. And food production, unfortunately, only has so many ways that you can actually grow food. And indoor farming is kind of this new method of food production that will significantly add efficiency to the other forms of production. So this is also really exciting for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Stuart. Boris, would you like to react?
I mean, although I'm a bit critical on the energy consumption, but I think that's a problem that will be solved. At the moment, I think indoor farming touches on four very important points, and that is to solve the future challenges. What we need is a reduction of waste. We need to increase trust to the consumer. We need to reduce chemicals, and we need to increase yields per measure of area. And basically, indoor farming, vertical farming, new ways of greenhouse automated production is touching on all these points. And I believe we'll have a huge impact on those.
Thank you, Boris. And thanks for giving us an insight about how indoor farming works, Stuart. And here comes my personal favorites about the questions that I collected for today, because I also have a background in finance, and I know that you guys have also changed careers to end up in agriculture. And I just wanted to check, or wanted to ask, why did you make this decision? So, Boris, would you like to come first?
Yeah, well, I'd say I've advanced from a boring job of pure number crunching to something that is much more tangible. So I started my career in one of the so-called Big Four companies with Ernst & Young. I have an economics and mathematics background, and I just basically I almost went into investment banking, but just got the corner. And it got more boring, but I guess the same amount of work. But then basically, ever since I started in the retail and consumer products practice. So I was really close to the food supply chain. And back then, when I was talking with people, and I was still a greenhorn, I found it strange that people always talked about an agricultural supply chain and a food supply chain. And in my head, it was like, that doesn't go together. Like, why isn't it one, right? And now I think also with what we're doing at Food Next, we've pushed for the understanding that we're actually talking about one supply chain. We start with, say, chemical development, seed development, and it ends with recycling. And we need to tackle this as a whole. So I've basically gone through the ranks and focused more and more on the upstream side of production, because I found this way more tangible to basically stand with gumboots on the fields. And actually we're doing this sort of stuff now, looking at, for example, of robots that we looked at in the Netherlands just a week ago. And to be able to help finance those solutions and do something good with the capital deployment and being able to see it grow. And also, we're quite an activist investor. So we get heavily involved if so wanted. This is so much more rewarding than looking at balance sheets and doing like the value investor bullshit.
Okay. Thank you, Boris. That was very, very inspiring. Stuart, can you try to beat this with your story?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I studied politics in college, but I went into finance. I was heavily impacted by Google's IPO in 2004 when I was living in Southern California. And one thing that I'll say is that finance teaches everything from good work ethics to an analytical way of thinking. And I think these are great. But finance is an indirect way to execute strategy. And so, I wanted to be more on the strategy development side, more than kind of focusing exclusively on how to execute somebody's strategy once it's been finalized. And so, I made the transition actually in between banking and what I'm doing at Aleska. I worked at Day1 China in their corporate development team. And my task was to really look at the challenges and opportunities of 10 key emerging market countries that we had identified. And the reason I was based in China was the other countries combined times 10 in some cases. So essentially, my goal was to globalize China's roadmap. And throughout that exercise, I found out that there's a lot of challenges related to infrastructure, and that was impacting people's access to fresh and nutritious food. And so I really wanted to find a way where I could get involved. And the banker in me says that, end to end, going back to what Boris said, the end to end, the agricultural supply chain, the whole thing is $20 trillion. It's a third of the entire global economy. And from an impact perspective, it hasn't really changed materially. The way in which we grow food hasn't changed enormously. The inputs have changed, the machines have changed, but the actual method of food production hasn't changed materially in 10,000 years. And so there's this huge opportunity for impact for somebody that had no experience in agriculture like me. And so, the opportunity for impact, as well as the huge market space was exciting. And then the last thing was urgency. So Boris talked about this too, but we need to make the remaining food producers superhuman. We need to give them every tool possible for them to be more productive, more efficient, more consistent. And just to give you one stat, China is potentially on a path to losing 100 million farmers over just the next 5 years. And the reason for that is not because of death or disease, it's just because of migration. They're moving from the rural countryside to the urban city centers. And so the remaining food producers, they need every tool available to them to be able to grow significantly more food over the coming decades.
Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting.
If I may, I would like to add just one small thing. Because something as Stuart touched on, that the chain hasn't changed significantly. And I think what one needs to understand, and you can also transfer that to other industries, we seem to have the tendency as a population to try to fix something, and it works, and then in the next wave of technology we screw it all up, and then the next wave comes along, and then we try to fix it again. So fortunately, we're in the fixing mode now, because we had the mechanical revolution, so we managed to harvest way more. There was a huge advancement. That's the basis for why we can actually have huge cities like we have. And then the green revolution, I don't know whoever gave it that name, came along, and that really screwed it up for us now in the long run. And we need to fix those problems that the green revolution created, with resistances to weeds that you basically cannot kill at the moment. And there's more resistances added to that list every month globally at an increasing rate. So now we need to figure out how we can fix that.
Thank you. Guys, we only have 1 minute left, so any last remarks, really quickly, 30 seconds. Stuart?
Yeah, no, I think what's exciting is that kind of Boris mentioned this earlier, but the coronavirus is putting a new attention on ag tech, which is like much more upstream. Before, a lot of focus was on food tech, which is downstream. It's close, and that was really about convenience. And now a lot of attention, capital, and partnerships and champions are coming out for ag tech, which is more about community resilience. And so it's really exciting to see that out of the ashes of coronavirus is coming this renewed resurgence and interest in ag tech, and this new inspired generation that is really excited about taking their skill sets and their energy and their passion and putting it into the agricultural industry.
Okay. Boris, anything from you to add?
I would underline that.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, guys, for having you here, and wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our second guest of the afternoon is Mr. Attila Cheney, who is the owner of the largest agricultural conglomerate in Hungary. Thank you, and thanks for making the time. Your topic is going to about agriculture and the aging of agriculture as a society, and also about the fact that maybe agriculture is not really the dream career of some of the young professionals. Do you think that the introduction of some modern agri-tech solutions can solve the problem?
First of all, good afternoon for everyone. A quick correction, I'm not the owner, unfortunately. My dad and my family is the owner, I'm just managing the company. When we talk about new technology and digitalization, which is clearly the key success factor of the long-term development of the industry, definitely one of the key advantages of this process is that it attracts young talents. However, one of the biggest difficulty of the whole industry is the very, very volatile raw material prices, whether we are talking about crops or we are talking about animal prices. The volatility of these prices is meaning such a big gain and such a big loss from one year to the other to all the farmers, that the effect of digitalization from one year to the other is actually so tiny compared to the profit volatility that the adoption of these technologies because of this will be, I think, rather slow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Can I ask a personal question? I know that you, before joining and before becoming the CEO of Bonafarm, you have been working in finance. So what made you make this change toward the agriculture? What was the trigger?
Well, I never planned to work in this industry or for the family office, I was preparing for a more general management, as mostly metropolitan people do, for insurance or banking, finance, whatever like this. But when I finished my MBA, then I started to think where I can have more added value. And I saw that this industry is a little bit lagging behind in terms of processes and management skills. And I started to work here, not as a CEO. I just wanted to do firstly some projects on HR, logistics, where I saw that the normal knowledge can be fruitful. But then when I started into one subject, I found another 10 which should have been dealt with. So somehow I very quickly and unintentionally took a deep dive in the industry. So it was more unplanned than planned.
And when you saw those problems, I know that agriculture uses a lot of traditions which have been created through centuries. Did you find it difficult to change some of the thinking of people who work in agriculture?
Well, absolutely. There are somehow in this industry many old, big knowledge people with big expertise are working. If you think about the family-run businesses in this industry, their proportion is quite big, where the owner and the manager is actually the same person, and they have decades of expertise which they are basing their decisions on. Actually, this is one of the disadvantages of the industry, because of the digitalization and the precision farming and all these new IT technologies. They are quite skeptic to use. They rather trust their decades-long expertise. So it takes time to convince them that the new technologies are actually working. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, we need to also learn from them, because young people like to think that they like to find new ways of adding values to industries. But as I told, because of the raw material prices being so volatile, sometimes they are only dealing with the 2-3% of the total profitability. However, the other 90 is depending on the decades-long expertise. So we also need to learn, and we need to apply the new technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, during your previous career, you have worked for one of the largest advisory companies. And do you have any best practice that you learned there that you think you can adapt to your current job?
Actually, yes. Basically, from one point of view, this industry is not different from any other, because in terms of management skills, in terms of how you analyze data, how you organize your organization, how you set up processes to ensure quality, how you are analyzing the market to find the proper way of product development, it's all the same. One thing which adds actually an extra difficulty is that this is a profession. I used to call banking and insurance a very difficult profession, but now if I think back, it's based only on math and economy knowledge. But here we also have biology. So when we first had a animal sickness problem, I had difficulty to deal with it. So obviously these profession-related things are more difficult, but all the other is actually the same.
Okay, you said that agriculture may be not that different from the industries that you worked before, but there's biology in this picture. So can you imagine that one of your previous companies, the advisory company, would come in and give some advice to you at this point?
In very specific processes, I can imagine. If you're talking about purchasing or if you're talking about pricing, so the so-called functional areas, mm-hmm. They can have a lot of added value and very relevant advices. Okay. Which requires actually professional knowledge. They're not really.
Okay. So do you have any positive experience, any big change that like a new Agritech solution, the introduction of a new Agritech solution brought to the life of Bona Farm?
Now we are working on the technology how to guess the exact weight of pigs in it's not a cage, but in a box of pigs, because we need to select the pigs actually, which very strictly fits into a very tight weight range. And so far, our colleagues were only doing it by sight. So this is one example. Another example is obviously the precision farming, where we are trying to decrease our costs and decrease our fuel consumption to 60 liters per hectare in average. And we are in a good way to do this by avoiding plowing. And for this, we need the John Deere and the RTK system, which allows us to plant 2 centimeters exactly. So the year after, we can plant in between the rows the previous year. So this type of technologies to many other office solutions, and we are an administration simplification, whether we are talking about the medication of pigs, whether we are talking about simple enterprise software, and Industry 4.0. We are working on in building a new salami factory. And in the new salami factory, there would be a part of the factory which is actually fully automatized.
Wow.
And there would be actually no people, and obviously many sensors and many robots are required to do this. Now we are estimating the return, how much we need to invest in this and whether it makes sense or not.
Great. And you mentioned this application that helps you to weigh the pigs. So is it an in-house innovation, or did you find a startup to cooperate with?
No, we are always tendering startup companies for this. No, not necessarily. I don't know whether it's startup or not startup, but there are some companies which are dealing with these type of developments. Whether we are talking about meteorology stations for the crops and for our vines, whether we are talking, for example, with this weight estimation. There are plenty of companies around, and we are working with them. We basically treat it as a normal purchasing process. We give the issue to the companies, we tender it, and whoever comes with the best solutions, we start working with them.
And do you also have an in-house innovation center or innovation team, or do you mostly work with external partners?
No, I think we only have operational departments, which is running the enterprise team, and we have non-enterprise software development team, but they are not developing themselves. They are just supervising the developments and ensuring that it is linked and interfaced properly with our softwares.
Okay. I also understand that as part of the family business, there is a venture capital firm called Bonitage that invests into startup. Do you have any connection? Do you work with them? Do you ask for your advice, for your experience when they have a startup that they are looking to invest in?
Yes, there was, I think, a company related to milking cow developments. I don't remember exactly what was the topic. But when they have any agriculture question, then they ask us, and we give them the applicability of the development. Because sometimes it's very easy to develop a software. For example, there was a very good Israeli development, which was listening. What is the cow doing when after eating?
Digestation.
The digestion of the cows, and they could almost digitalize everything, which was working well. But we need to ensure that actually the farmer doesn't stay in the office only watching the screen. So being on site and using your eyes is also as important as using the IT technologies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You might recall that there is a part of this session where we have a kind of a Q&A. So we received a couple of questions from the audience. I'm just going to read them now. So first one is that, what do you think are the main challenges of generational change in the sector in Europe and in Hungary?
Well, the main factor with the how you call it, with the older generation is somehow they feel or that they know everything and they like to give the solution to the main problems and doesn't really involve the younger people only for the execution. However, involvement of young people can really motivate them so much that if a manager is willing to step this change, that they are involving in the decision the younger talents, then the generational shift is working much more smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. How do you, at your company, inspire the young generation to come and work in agriculture?
Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah. So what do you do at your company to inspire the younger generation to work in agriculture? So is there anything that you do, like career days or something like that?
No, we have a management trainee program where we are selecting many young talents, and we have they are doing projects in different our industries, and we are listening to their solutions about once or twice yearly, and we are organizing events, so we give them visibility. Mm-hmm. Second, I simply give them my opinion about how the food sector will be one of the main topic in the coming years. Whether we talk about people and different groups are starting to start finding relation between the green direction because of the red meat thing, because of vegan thing, and everyone is thinking there must be a relation between immune system, between life quality and food, and how important steps will be coming in this industry. And we are also thinking how we could involve all these things into product development and just motivate them with the challenges lying ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think you mentioned a very, very interesting topic for the audience, is that the management trainee program. So is there a way for instance, for the audience of this code to apply for that? So is it like a job posting for like a management trainee program for externals, or do you keep this open for people who already work in Bonafarm?
Actually, both. We have a program for those who are already working in Bonafarm, and we are working with some universities. We founded different colleges, or how we call it, collegium, mm-hmm. And we give them case studies, and whoever comes with the case studies, the best solutions, we are hiring from them. Mm-hmm. So it's more through the universities, one, and the other is more for inside.
Uh-huh. Okay, and a third question, what do you think how digital technologies can be used to benefit the smaller scale farmers in small countries?
Actually, it can be very profitable. However, they will be not those who are developing these technologies. For example, there will be companies who are investing a lot of money. I must mention here Kita, who is developing a so-called consulting system, and they invested to the development of a complete program where using the technologies which is already built in the tractors and into the combine technologies. So we give them, for example, sticks, and we can program on the streets how often the soils should be planted, what should be the row distance, how much fertilizer should be used. So these type of technologies they can use, but they will be supplied by big contractors.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Last question. Is there anything that you would like to share or you would like to tell the audience? We have like more than 500 youngsters who are very much interested about Agritech and future of farming. Is there anything that you would like to share with them based on your experience or any advice?
I would be very happy to see research and developments in the direction of more in the professional direction of how food and packaging is related to immune system, health, and life quality. Only in the efficiency of precision farming and IT technology, I think the application of this technology will be slower. However, developments into this, especially in these COVID times, how the food can be more healthier and how the packaging can be more healthier, less additive, less GMO-free, less antibiotics. Developments into this direction will be a more important topic than digitalization itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, I have a last but one question, maybe another last question, and that's you mentioned climate change. So, agriculture is one of those companies or one of those sectors that can generate a lot of carbon footprint. So, do you have any in-house initiatives, anything, or do you? Would you support, I guess, yes, you would, but would you be open for suggestions on how to reduce the carbon footprint? So if a startup with a brand new idea would come to you and say, okay, we can reduce your carbon footprint, would you listen to that?
We just formed a sustainability committee, which will make an analysis of all our environment-related topics and areas. It will give us some priorities, which areas to deal with. That is one factor. The other factor is we are talking with our buyers, the biggest retailers, and we are asking what is their main priority, which is actually the same, which is the customer's main priority. Actually, when we talk with them, they clearly specify as the plastic consumption. So compared to GMO or antibiotics or salt or red meat or so, it all doesn't seem too relevant. The plastic seems to be the most relevant. So we already started to work on this. Actually, this morning I had a meeting with our plastic packaging production company, and we were discussing how the 55 micron packaging material can be decreased to about 40 microns. So we are working on this quite heavily.
Okay, great to hear that. Mr. Attila Cheney, thank you very much for making yourself available for this session, and wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much. The same to you.